Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Karina Joy and I talk about books. If you are returning, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I love talking to you guys about books. Today is going to be part 2 of my short story recommendations. Okay, so I was supposed to have had this up on Thursday, but we had to go out of town for a funeral. One of my a friend of my husband's grandmother passed away, and we went to the funeral for that. So I didn't get to film this video, but better late than never. So I figured since I'm filming this on the 1st, I'm going to post it on the 2nd. It's still plenty of time for you guys to read some of the short stories that I recommend if you want to. So I left off in part 1 on mystery recommendations, and I was going through all of the prompts on our bingo card, which I actually have up here. This is our bingo card for the short story Read-a-thon. I like to have a piece of paper, but you certainly could just download this to your phone and use it on that. But I made it pretty because I'm a nerd. But anyway, so the next prompt is a short story with a name and a title. Now this one was pretty easy to find. There were quite a few options for this. So I'm going to give you a basic synopsis for each one, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so the first one I'm going to recommend is from my collection of Dostoevsky's short stories. It's called The Peasant Mary. In this book, a little boy is living with his father in Russia, and he is terrified because there are rumors of a wolf prowling the area. So he takes comfort in one of his father's servants named Mary. That's all I know about it. I think it will be good because everything I've read by Dostoevsky is good, so that's one that I'm gonna read for sure. Okay, so the next one I have is called Sweet William by Rushlight. This is in my Straw into Gold collection of re-spun fairy tales. It's a retelling of the Swan Brothers. Now, I've never read the Swan Brothers. I'm wondering if I have it in this collection. I don't know if it's a Brothers Grimm fairy tale or not. Okay, I didn't find it in here. I don't know exactly if it is a Brothers Grimm fairy tale or not, but I'm excited to read it. I don't know what the Swan Brothers is about, but I guess we'll find out. Okay, the next one is in this collection. This is The Moments of Tenderness by Madeleine L'Engle. This is the author that wrote A Wrinkle in Time. This one is called Gilbert Must Play Bach. Now this is about a little girl whose father is an alcoholic, I believe, and her mother is a piano player that is obsessed with playing Bach over and over again, and about how depressing that is for the little girl. So I don't think it'll be a very happy story, but it'll definitely be interesting to see where she takes that. Okay, so the next one is also a part of this collection, and it is called Julio at the Party. Now this is about a couple who invites their extremely leftist friend to a party, and he ends up arguing with their extreme right-sided friend at the party. So it's all about that. I'm not big on politics usually, but it kind of sounds interesting just to hear a little bit of a banter between the two sides. So I might read that one. I'm not sure if I will or not. Politics, again, is not my favorite thing, but we'll see. The next story is in my O. Henry Prize collection of short stories. It is called Finding Billy Whitefeather by Percival Everett. Now, I tried to find a synopsis on this one, and all I got was kind of like a review of it, and so I couldn't really get what the story was about, except for that the main character is a rancher, and he is also the local vet, and so he goes and helps somebody with their horses being born. There's a horse that has twins, and so he helps with that. But it says that we never actually meet Billy Whitefeather, so I'm interested in that. I wonder why the title of the story is called Finding Billy Whitefeather, but you never actually meet him in the story. So I'm interested in that one. I'm probably definitely going to read that this month. Okay, so the next prompt is to read a short story that is a retelling. So what I put down for that one is this collection. I have seen this in the library lots of times, and I know I got it on Book Outlet for like $2 or something like that. So I'm definitely going to be reading one of these. And then my mind is going blank because I found, in the midst of all of my research, I found another retelling, but I can't for the life of me remember what it was. I should have written it down. If I find it throughout the month, I will definitely let you know, but this is the one I put down for that. So I don't have very many recommendations for that one, sorry, but this is something you could find at your library if you wanted to use this for that prompt. Okay, so the next prompt is to read a short story from another country. And this one's going to be pretty easy for me to find because I have several collections that are written by people from another country. But the main story that I'm going to suggest for that is Dostoevsky's Notes from the Underground. This is a story that is essentially an excerpt of a memoir from a rambling servant that works in St. Petersburg. So I guess that's the narrator. I don't know much about it, but I know that he is writing about his experience as a servant. So there's that one. I also have Just So Stories. This is by Rudyard Kipling. He wrote these stories in India, I believe. I have this collection of short stories by Michael Mapurgo. He is a British author, so that's from another country. I also have The Dark Tower, which I thought these were short stories, but they're actually unfinished works by C.S. Lewis. So I don't know if I'll be picking this up like I thought I would for this readathon, but I might. They are still short stories. They're just unfinished. So I don't know. But he's from England as well. And then I also have my Penguin book of Japanese short stories. I have loved all of the Japanese short stories that I've read, and so I'm excited to get into this. This one's a little more focused on, it seems like, some political events and natural disasters and things like that, but I still think it's going to be really good. I also have this collection by Oscar Wilde. He was also from Great Britain, so that is also another collection from another country. Okay, so the next prompt is to read a sci-fi short story. This is probably my favorite prompt because I absolutely love sci-fi. This book I got a second ago. I told you it's a bunch of unfinished novels by C.S. Lewis, and I got it because I thought that The Dark Tower is an allegory, but when I picked it up and started looking at it, it's actually a sci-fi novel that he never finished. And so I'm interested in reading it. I have read his the first one of his sci-fi trilogy, what is it called? The Silent Planet. Out of the Silent Planet is what it's called. And I enjoyed it. It was hard to get into. The middle was excruciating. I almost didn't finish it, but the end made up for it with the banter and just the reveal of what was actually going on. I loved the ending of that book. So I'm interested to see this. The problem is, if it doesn't have an ending, I don't know if I'll like it so much. So I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so the next one I have for SciFi is this collection of stories by Veronica Roth. It's called The End and Other Beginnings. And this is sci-fi stories from the future. So she is the author that wrote Divergent, along with several other different series and things. And this is a collection of short stories. Now, I personally really love the inside of this book because it has some really, really pretty artwork. So this is a collection that has, let's see, this is a collection with 6 short stories. So definitely something that I'm going to pick up this month. I'm very interested, basically because of all the cool illustrations that are in this book. I picked this up from the library. I'm sure it's something that you can find at yours as well. Okay, so the next one is To Read a Gothic Horror. Now, I am not a horror reader, but Gothic horrors are a little different. They are, I don't even know how to describe them. To me, they're mainly just kind of creepy stories, and you know there's something going on, like maybe a ghost or somebody going crazy or a murder or something like that, but it's written in such a way that it doesn't terrify you. So that's my definition of Gothic horror. I don't know, it might be wrong, but that's when I think about Gothic horrors, that's what I think of. I don't actually have these stories in front of me. I have them on Scribd, and so if I do end up reading these for this prompt, I will just read them on my phone. But the first one is The Yellow Wallpaper. This is by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, and it is a story about a woman that is suffering from depression. And back in the 1800s, when people were depressed like that, instead of trying to help them, doctors would isolate them, and that's what happened to this woman. So they put her in a room with yellow wallpaper, and the longer she's in there, the more crazy she gets, and she begins to see the things in the wallpaper moving, and it drives her even more crazy. And so I really want to read this one because I found an essay from the author about why she wrote this, and I think I'm going to make that I think I'm going to use that for my essay prompt. So I think I'm going to read the two of them together and use that for 2 prompts because I think it'll be good. The next one is The Telltale Heart. Now, this is by Edgar Allan Poe, and he is pretty much, I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure all of his stuff is Gothic horror. I have never read anything by him that is not. His stuff kind of reminds me of things like Arsenic and Old Lace, if you've ever seen that play or watched that movie. It'll have somebody that's an unsuspected killer or something like that, and he'll write about it. But The Telltale Heart is about somebody that commits a murder, and if I remember correctly, I've read it before, if I remember correctly, he buries the body under his floor, and he can hear the heart beating, and it drives him crazy. So there's that one. Probably anything by Edgar Allan Poe you could use for this particular prompt, because I think all of his are Gothic horror. So the next prompt is to read short stories that were written in the 2000s. And so I have a few that I can use, just collections. I don't have any specific stories set aside for these, but this particular collection, the O. Henry Prize stories, these were all written in 2015, and so that can fit that prompt. The End and Other Beginnings was published in 2019, so there's that one. This is called Anything is Possible. In my last video, I mentioned a short story by Elizabeth Strout that was called Snowblind, and it's actually a part of the O. Henry collection that I have, but this is her book that story came from. So this is a collection of short stories by Elizabeth Strout. Snowblind is also in it, but these were published in 2017, so I could use that for that prompt. Okay guys, this is about the nerdiest book I think I've ever seen, but it's perfect for me, and I'm super excited about it, but I'm also very nervous because sometimes people can get weird, and I hope this book doesn't go along those lines. But guys, look at this. It's called Robots versus Fairies, and essentially it is a battle between which is better, sci-fi and fantasy. So I'm super excited about this. This was written in the 2000s. Let me double check before I say it was, and it actually wasn't. Yeah, this was written in the 2000s. So I'm excited to see what this is all about. I'm probably gonna have to read the whole book. I don't think I'll get it all done in May, but it just really intrigues me. I really hope that it lives up to my expectations because I have some pretty high ones for this. Okay, so the next prompt is to read a short story by a new to you author. Now, in the realm of short stories, a lot of people write short stories that are not well known, and they publish them in magazines and things like that. So this is probably not a very hard one for you to find. I went ahead and wrote down for myself this author, Kylie Fajardo Anstein. I probably said that wrong. I bought this book because it has my name on it, and I've never in my life seen anything with my name on it spelled correctly that I didn't order myself. And so I was super excited when I saw this. I have no clue if I'm gonna like the stories in it or not, but I needed it because it says my name. So I'm gonna try this for a new to me author. So the next prompt is to read a short story that has been translated. Again, this is a very easy prompt to find. Short stories are from all over the world through all generations, and so finding one that is translated isn't very difficult. For myself, I chose to read one of Dostoevsky's short stories in this collection called A Gentle Creature. I don't know much about it. You know, I don't like to know a lot about things going in, but the synopsis says that this is about the destruction of a young woman who is married to a pawnbroker who is, let's see, how did they put this? It says he is spiritually ruined by his pride and cowardice. So I'm interested to see what that's all about. I hope it's not too sad of a story. Sometimes stories like that can be pretty heartbreaking, but I hope it has good points to it. Okay, so another one that I am considering reading for one that is translated is from my Penguin collection of Japanese short stories, and this is called, I don't remember the author's name off my head. This is called Behind the Prison by Naogi Kafu. I know I said that wrong, sorry. This is about a man that has traveled the world, and when he comes home, he compares his memories of his neighborhood to the actual neighborhood itself as it is when he returns. And he also compares political mindsets from other countries to his current neighborhood, I think. I read a synopsis, that's what I gathered from it. I could be wrong, but that's what I think it is. So it's kind of like a compare and contrast type of short story. I'm interested to see what it's all about. Okay, so the next prompt is to read a short story about nature, or with a nature word in the title. And so I have this collection called Just So Stories by Rudyard Kipling. This is all about nature. It's things like how the whale got its throat, how the camel got its hump, how the rhinoceros got his skin, stories like that. So there's that one. I also have this collection by Michael Apurgo from Hear About Hill. This one has a lot of different short stories in it as well. So such as like My Father is a Polar Bear and The Owl and the Pussycat, which I'm assuming is why it has this beautiful cover here. So I'm excited to read those two because they sound fantastic. A story that intrigues me that has a nature word in the title is called The Chrysanthemums by John Steinbeck. It's in this collection of American short stories. This is about a man and a woman who are ranchers and they're working on their ranch, and she's a gardener, and yeah, that's as far as I got. I didn't want to get much further because it said something about how they seem like the perfect couple, but based on their conversation. And so I'm wondering if there's more than meets the eye in this story. So I don't want to know any more, but I'm excited to read it. Okay, so the next prompt is to read a short story that is a fairy tale. Now, this one is obviously pretty easy to find. We can find fairy tales all over the place. The ones that I'm going to focus on are in this collection of the Brothers Grimm's fairy tales. I have been reading this off and on throughout the year, and I'm interested to read some more out of it because it's my goal to read lots of short stories this year, and fairy tales are fun to read. So Brothers Grimm is a good option for this prompt. Okay, so the next prompt is to read a short story written by a woman. Now, a lot of these stories that I have shared with you are written by women, but I will mention one of my favorite female authors that writes short stories. And I have already mentioned her in my last video with recommendations, but it's because I really love her short stories, and that is L.M. Montgomery. She has some amazing stories. She has tons of them about all kinds of different topics. One of the ones that I personally loved from her is called The Red Room. Now, it says it's a Christmas story, and I read it around Christmas, but it really spans a few months. So Christmas is in it, but I wouldn't say it's a Christmas story. And it actually gets pretty low ratings because it's a murder mystery, and she is not typically the person to write murder mysteries, and so I think people are taken aback by that because they're expecting her typical story, kind of like Story Girl or Anne of Green Gables, and that's not what you get with this story. But it was a really fun story about this mysterious couple that this man marries this woman, and his family doesn't really like her, and they think she has bad motives, but he doesn't think she has bad motives. And it's about a little girl that's kind of seeing things from the background because she's a child and she's able to sneak around and see things that are happening. So it's definitely a really good story, and you shouldn't listen to all the low ratings because it's very good. Okay, so the very last prompt is an allegory. Now, if you don't know what an allegory is, it is a story that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning. That is the Oxford definition of an allegory. So one of the most popular allegories is probably The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but there are so many different ones, and there's a ton of allegories that are also short stories as well. So I picked The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. Okay, so I've never read The Lottery. I've heard lots of good things about it. It is characterized as a Gothic horror. It also serves as an allegory that talks about a human's capacity to be cruel and violent. And so I'm interested in that. Never read it before, but it sounds really, really good. It is about a small town. Every year they have a lottery and something sinister happens to the person that wins the lottery. So you have to read it and see what that's all about. Another allegory is The Mask of the Red Death. This is by Edgar Allan Poe, and I plan on reading this month if I can. So this one is an allegory that talks about the fact that death is inescapable. So it examines a person's life and that no matter who you are, death is inevitable. And I don't know much else about it. I know that I've read it before. I just can't remember what it's about, but I'm interested in finding the allegory in that story as well. So that is what I have for you for recommendations for the short story readathon. Now, I will be doing vlogs this month. It's not something that I typically do, but I'm very excited about sharing with you the journey of reading a short story every single day. I have been looking forward to this forever, and I've been saving all of these books forever to have this month-long focus on short stories. So I'm super excited. I hope you'll join in. Please let me know if you do. I want to know all that you're reading. If you need any more recommendations, please let me know and I will research and try to find some for you. It's one of my favorite things to do, is just research books and stories and all of that. So if you need help, let me know and I will help you. Check out Chantel and Mitzi's channels. They will have content all this month about the short story readathon. I will link their channels below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.